I think my husband's relationship with a female friend has gone too far. My husband, 40s, is very social. He can make sincere, genuine connections with people very easily. His mother, 70s, works at a program with victims of domestic abuse, helping them get resources, etc. There is one young woman, Penny, 20s, who benefits from the program and also works for them. Penny has a young son and recently, I don't know the exact date but within the last year, left an extremely physically abusive relationship. My mother-in-law does not drive, so my husband drives her to work every day, since both her house and her job is on the way to where he works. Penny lives down the street from my mother-in-law and also does not drive, so my mother-in-law volunteered for my husband to drive her to work as well. Since Penny just walks to my MIL's house and he picks both of them up from there, my mill figured it was no extra hassle. I don't know Penny's exact situation, other than she has severe PTSD. She's a very nice girl. I know she's not a girl. She's in her early 20s, she's just very small and shy and quiet, which makes her seem a lot younger. But she doesn't open up to people easily. She's much more familiar with my husband than with me. If it's just the two of them in a conversation, she'll be talkative and loud and laugh. But the moment I or anyone else other than a select few people will join in, she'll go completely silent and withdraw. It just makes me feel really strange when I try to join in a conversation with my husband and feel like an awkward, unwanted third wheel. My husband will occasionally drive Penny and her son places, soccer practice, the arcade, etc., as well. It slightly irritates me whenever he does this and his mother eagerly volunteers to go with them, because she never gets to go to little kid stuff. My husband and I both wanted kids. We tried for a while and weren't able to get pregnant. We then spent about $20,000 on IVF, and after that all failed, we were both so discouraged we decided to take a break from trying and haven't discussed it again yet. I think she should know how hurtful saying something like that would be. How she never gets to go to little kid stuff. My MIL's company had a picnic at a lake this weekend. Our entire family, including my parents, were invited to come by. My husband spent almost the entire time with Penny. When I spoke to him about it, he said that she was really upset because her ex-husband had found her new cell phone number and had called her and harassed her. He said she felt pretty shaken up and paranoid about it. My mother happened to overhear him saying this and made a comment that if she didn't feel safe going to a picnic at a public lake wasn't a good idea and she should probably call law enforcement. My husband, who usually has a good relationship with my mother, just kind of glared at her and then walked away, and then spent most of the rest of the picnic with Penny. After the picnic, we had planned to go back to my mother's house to celebrate all of the July birthdays in the family, my father, Mill, husband, and I guess my husband had mentioned this to her. As we were leaving, Penny went to come with us and my mother stopped her and said that the get-together was strictly for family. Penny seemed upset but said okay. My husband was definitely angry but just said he would just drive her back first. On the way home, my mother admitted that she had been too rude, but she had thought it seemed incredibly inappropriate for Penny and my husband to spend all of that time together at the picnic. When he got back, my husband and his mother both went ballistic, saying that my mother's rude comment had brought Penny to tears and that she could use a family support system right now. My mother said that my husband already had a wife that he should be worried about, and that's when my husband turned on me and asked if I agreed with my mother and what she had done. I told him I did think all of the time that him and Penny spent together at the picnic was over the top, and I thought he had to have better boundaries with her, and that yes, I did think stopping her coming to our family get-together was a good idea. My husband says I'm heartless and cruel and is calling my mother worse. I know what my mother said was rude, but I think it was necessary. I don't know what to do or say because I don't want my husband to be mad, but I also don't want to say I disagree with something I don't. Sounds like your husband has entered white knight mode with this young lady. And she's probably looking for a savior because she's in a vulnerable place right now. That's not an appropriate place for him to be, especially when you have a wife at home that you are ignoring. You need to definitely sit down and have a calm talk about how you are feeling and what boundaries you would like to put in place. I agree that your husband is too invested in Penny. It's as though he has taken her on as his own project. I wouldn't be comfortable with the arrangement at all. It's one thing to give her a ride to work since he's picking up his mother as well. But outings with her son? And then your Mill goes with them? It's as though they are forming their own little family unit. And I just see this as so problematic. How is your relationship otherwise? Do you and he have enough quality time together? Dates? Hobbies? Travel? So, he acts like a father figure to Penny's son, and brings his mom along so they can play happy family while you sit home alone. You feel like a third wheel because she refuses to talk when you are near. Hint. It's not because she's shy. And then, at a picnic, he spends all his time with her almost as though he's her partner instead of yours. Sorry, your husband is having an emotional affair with Penny. If it hasn't turned physical yet, it definitely will after this dust up. She's the damsel, and he's being the man rescuing her. Affair starting very soon. Setting boundaries isn't a bad thing. I would sit down with your husband and Penny and kinda lay it out there that you know she's going through a tough time, but it is kinda bordering inappropriate area for you and you just wanna know where they both are at. Your husband's loyalty is to you, not Penny. I initially agreed that he may have some white knight syndrome going on, but other details don't add up to that. Why glare at your mom for offering to call the law when it's most people's initial thought as a form of protection? He's obviously more than protective of her. Why does she clam up when you try to conversate with them together? Something's building between them and she may indirectly give it away? How is the interaction between her child and your husband? You may not know the child, but you know your husband and how he generally interacts with other children. That alone could tell you so much in itself. My colleague ate my personal lunch. My colleague ate my ham and cheese sandwich today that was in the shared work fridge. I know it was them because they only ate half of the sandwich and put the rest in the bin because they didn't like it. My other colleague watched them eat it and put them in the bin. I am now here without lunch and have to wait until home for dinner. This is the second time this has happened this year that my lunch went missing or was eaten by someone else. I am not sure what to do about it. I started bringing an insulated lunch bag with freezer pack and kept my lunch at my desk. A pain, but better than dealing with the Ives. Honestly, people who steal lunches need to be disciplined. If you walked into a store and ate without paying, you'd be arrested for shoplifting. Can you talk to your boss or HR? Have you confronted them about it? Update: so I emailed HR and they told me it's just a sandwich and was a one-off most likely, so can I just please take some money out of petty cash to buy my lunch today and forget it? HR is just a work-from-home external contractor who does 6.5 days a month, so I'm not sure they're gonna really care much. They more look after payroll and interviews. Why don't you ask why they did it? My sandwich. My sandwich? Please tell me it didn't include a moist maker, folded hands, light skin tone. Sabotage a decoy sandwich with something disgusting or spicy. My issues with my parents and their lifestyle. Before anyone jumps down my throat about how familiar my story is, I shared my story before on Reddit a while ago under a different username. Out of frustration, I deleted my story and account. However, new stuff has come up. My therapist thinks it's a good idea to share my story since it's cathartic and it feels secure for me. My parents came out to me as polyamorous and as swingers when I was 16. They told me they started swinging when I was little, which doesn't surprise me given how frequently gone they were as I was growing up. I used to think they used to prefer doing other stuff aside from spending time as a family or with just me. They didn't outright neglect me as we did have dinner, family vacations, and I could come from them for advice. However, it was painfully obvious majority of their happiness came from their marriage and adult lifestyle. When they came out to me, they started bringing the couple they had a relationship with more frequently. It's like they dropped all pretenses of being a normal family. The couple was every 3-4 days, or my parents were gone there every other week. It felt like I was pushed aside for this couple. I unfortunately had to go to community college to save up money so I could transfer for my engineering degree. My parents were nice enough to let me stay while I went to community. In hindsight, it was a bad idea. I remember when I was 19, my mom had my former classmate over and I found out the worst way possible. I started avoiding my parents and spent more time in the library. My grades were good enough for me to transfer out of state. My parents visited multiple times, but I kept my distance. 2 years now, and I get a call from my mother begging me to visit her on her birthday. I gave her the usual bullshit that I was too busy. My dad then revealed everybody left them and it hurts that I'm pushing them away. I went to the non-monogamous forums. They said I was too harsh. My girlfriend's parents, who I value a lot, said I was being too harsh also. So I decided to go. My parents tried to be physically affectionate with me, but I initially pushed them till my mom started crying about it. My mom suggested I spend time with just her by going to the mall together. This was the first time in a while she has ever done that. She told me she was sorry about Josh. I told her how I felt throughout these years. She started bursting in tears and apologized profusely. People were looking at us, so I calmed her down by saying it was okay. My father got defensive when I went fishing with him, so I left the next morning and told them to not call me until I was ready to talk to them. My mom said okay. Then my dad called me drunk at night saying I was the best thing that ever happened to him besides meeting my mom. I cried after that call. Now I got all my relatives begging me to talk to my parents. I don't know what to do. Is it safe to say you felt emotionally neglected growing up? Your parents provided for you materially, but they weren't there for the emotional connection you desired as a child? You are absolutely entitled to your feelings. Your parents prioritized their relationships with others over maintaining one with you. Now that they have been left by their other partners, they are now wanting you to be almost like their emotional support animal and play happy close family. It seems they don't realize the damage they did to you and that you can't just wash away all of those years. If you are wanting a relationship with them, I would recommend family therapy. My dad then revealed everybody left them and it hurts that I'm pushing them away. Isn't it interesting that the people they valued more than you have abandoned them and now they're turning to the person they ignored for so many years for companionship? I'm not going to advise you to pay them back for ignoring you during your formative years, but spending a reasonable amount of time with your parents while they are alive will be something you will not regret. Blunt and likely unpopular answer. Swinging is a sexual preference, not a lifestyle choice, and it should never be divulged to your kids. Polyamory can be a relationship approach that requires sensitive handling when it comes to your children. Swinging isn't and shouldn't be. Your parents were adults who could dictate their own sexual and relationship preferences, but they involved their child in their sex life and it went poorly, surprising no one. Your parents are now dealing with the consequences of failing to erect appropriate boundaries. If you don't want to talk to them, don't. Don't let other people influence what is best for you. Talk to your parents only when you are ready to talk to them. That may be tomorrow, it may be next year, it may be never. I hope you have a therapist to work through this stuff. If not, it's a very good idea. Your parents did what they did, and nothing can change it. You are allowed to feel about it however you want to. Your parents and your relatives don't get to demand that you let them into your life. They pushed you away. They don't get to push their way in. They neglected you. They pushed you aside, and now that everybody left them, they're coming to you. Of course you're upset. You owe them nothing. Do what's best for you and that may change in time. I want to raise a strong, independent daughter. I don't know if this is the right sub for this question, but perhaps since it's relational. My daughter is 6 years old. I take her on daddy-daughter dates at least 6 times a month where we just hang out and talk. She absolutely loves cheering and dancing, and we have her involved in the local ballet and tap class as well as cheering and gymnastics. She's such a funny little girl and she's my whole heart. So are my other 2 boys, but I have a handle on how to raise them as a man myself. I want to raise her to be who she wants to be and instill a great confidence in her. Before she performs or does anything really, I always get eye level and smile really big and tell her, "You're beautiful, you're strong, and you're confident. You got this." I tell her this because I absolutely believe she is and I want her to believe it too. Lately, I've been thinking, ladies, is there important adjectives that I'm not including in this? As a woman, what's the most important thing to believe about yourself? Edit. I think people are really digging into the gender issue. She chooses what she does. We don't force her to play with Barbies and be in cheer. We've encouraged her to branch out into other sports like football and softball. She's just not interested. Raise her like your boys. She's nothing like my boys. In fact, my boys aren't even the same law. I raise my kids exactly the same in a general sense, but each one are different and take different degrees of discipline, encouragement, alone time, etc. I treat them all equally, they all rotate the same chores. Example. Week 1. One unloads dishwasher, one cleans the playroom, one picks up dog poop in the yard. Week 2, they rotate. I really just want a woman's perspective of what was important to her as a daughter. Or a father's perspective that has a similar experience. She is going to watch how you treat women in general. Honestly, I think telling little girls they are pretty or beautiful sounds great, but I don't think it's necessary. Tell her she's intelligent, competent, thoughtful, resourceful. Use words that aren't based on looks but her as a person. Being pretty isn't a personality trait. Unless it's directly related to an issue at hand. Think of her less as your daughter and more as your child. Like your sons, she is an individual, with her own individual likes and dislikes, strengths and weaknesses. Value her strengths, encourage her likes, teach her what you know. Be there for her when she is weak, and help her to overcome or work around her problems. Do the same for your sons. And treat the women around you with the same respect and individuality as the men, because she will see it. You've already got the most important first step. You care enough to try. Not necessarily before performances, but I was in childcare for years, mostly boys. But I tried to be consistent in my approach, and I always tried to praise industriousness and generosity. Praising kindness at young ages can get confused with politeness, as that's what kids think of as nice. And there's some research that praising effort, actions, and accomplishments, rather than inborn traits, like intelligence, can encourage growth. Sounds like you're doing a really great job. Exactly the kind of stuff I would have wanted my dad to say to me as a kid. She'll remember your kind words and encouragement. Just keep encouraging her to be who she is and who she wants to be, to take no shit from anyone, and that you love her regardless. That sounds great. Things I am mindful of, say. Have you tried it yourself yet? Before I help, she uses that back on us too, depending on the case. You're a strong and capable woman. Or, you're a smart and capable woman. She's 12 now, but she loves it when I call her a woman. I've heard her say these to herself as well. Give her chores she can do because she is a valuable part of our team. Mom, Dad, her. We don't give up easily. This one is a bit more tricky because you don't want to stay in a bad situation either. So not absolute. Making mistakes means you learn something. I am sure I am forgetting things, but that's fine. Wishing you lots of fun with your girl.